Good morning. I'm Pete Najarian on this beautiful Monday morning. We got a full week in front of us. I hope we're all prepared to actually work 5 days in a row. It should be an interesting thing to see. But I'll tell you, if you look back to Friday, talk about a roller coaster, the ups and the downs. And actually, it was pretty shocking. We were down early. We had this big move to the upside. Then we pulled back. Then we went back upside. Then we pulled back a little bit more. We finished the day on the Dow down 46 points. Not a whole lot to say about that. Then you look over at the NASDAQ. The same sort of a pace. We were going all over the place, and we finally finished the day up about 14 points. So nothing very significant really moving for the markets, but there was that intraday moves that we had. Certainly that does stand out. And then you look over the price of crude. Crude, 104, goes down to 102, goes back up to 104, gets a little bit higher, gets almost to 105, up a couple of percent, and that's where it finished up for the day. Interesting to watch that because we were also seeing something happening in natural gas. And natural gas was pretty interesting just because the flows that we've been seeing there, and that's been getting a little bit more active after something we talked about very frequently, and then we lost track of it for a moment or two. But we'll jump back to that in just a second. Agriculture really did stand out as well when you go back to last Friday. On a single day, take a look at what was going on with wheat. Wheat was up nearly 7% on Friday. Corn up nearly 5% on Friday. It's not quite over yet, guys. When we're talking about inflation, we're talking about some of these moves that we are seeing within a lot of the commodities space. It paused for a little while, but sometimes they wake up, and when they start moving again, they move in some pretty big, chunky moves. We'll talk about that just a second when we talk about today and what's going on with natural gas. The volatility index, it had been moving up, then it started to slide, slid. We actually finished on Friday, pricing into the weekend and everything else. Maybe a little bit too much, but underneath 25. We were around 2460. Volumes were right back up. They were right around 38 million, a little bit more than 38 million contracts on Friday. For summer, it makes a little bit more sense that we are getting away from that year-to-date average. We'll see if we get any more high volume days back up in there over 40 or so. But the year-to-date number is starting to come down because of a little bit of that slowdown that we have seen of late. The 2-year, still above 3. The 10-year, still above 3. Something we've been focusing on very, very closely. When we've seen that move into the upside and well over 3, we've seen some of that pressure selling to the downside. We'll see if that continues as well. Materials, down about 1%. You know, when I look at the sectors themselves, not a whole lot of movement there, which makes some sense. We didn't have a whole lot of movement when you look at the Dow or the NASDAQ when it was finally close to close. Industrials were down about 0.5%. That stood out a little bit. And healthcare. Healthcare actually leaped up a little bit. Healthcare has been one of those kind of secret areas. I can't say that it's a place where people are going to hide, but certainly we are seeing healthcare do a little bit better than a lot of the other sectors at times. And specifically, there have been times where most of the market moved to the downside, and yet we see healthcare actually hanging in there pretty good. Late afternoon, what was the storyline? We all know it. Elon Musk. What's going on with Twitter? There's a lot more to that. And of course, we had the whole weekend for everybody to have a little bit of fun, the back and forths, some of the tweets coming from Elon Musk. We'll talk about this in just a second. So with that, what were some of the areas that were really moving to the upside? Well, if he's backing out, and he sounds like he is, he absolutely looks like that he is, from this Twitter purchase, if he's backing out of that, well, that could be very positive for Tesla. Tesla showed that dramatically towards the end of the day. Tesla's finishing in the positive, very strong. Moderna, Regeneron, those names pretty strong. I mentioned healthcare being part of that. Also, I mentioned the ag space. How about a name like CF Industries? Costco just seems to just keep on humming along. I was at boots on the ground in Costco this weekend, in 2 or 3 different Costcos, and I can tell you, parking lots were full, people's shopping carts were full, and it was very, very busy, very interesting to see, even on some of these warm days. And that basically maybe people are going for a little air conditioning, but whatever it is, Costco seems to be really kind of cooking along pretty nicely. Semiconductors actually had a pretty decent day. What didn't have a good day? Twitter, definitely number one. That was getting punished to the downside. Also in the cruise line space, once again, getting hammered pretty good. Some of those materials as well. I mentioned materials earlier, but Freeport McMoran, I look over at some of the staples, and you look at something like a Clorox and Colgate's and some of those, a little bit pressure to the downside, along with some of those casino names, Las Vegas Sands being one of those. Look at something like a Caesars. Look also at some of those big value or maybe not so much value names, but some of those big NASDAQ names where we're always trying to figure them out. But a DocuSign had a pretty decent or a pretty a little bit of a pressured day, along with Raw stores and some of those. So a very interesting day on Friday, and just sort of the back and forth and the ups and the downs that we were seeing certainly did stand out. Today, a lot more downs and a lot less ups. It's been down, it's been pressure. It started right out of the gate, and a lot of the news just listening today and reading today still directly focused right on Elon Musk, what's going on with Twitter and what's going on with Tesla. That is what's stealing the show right now. So down in the pre-market, down about 180 points. You got the NASDAQ down about 90. NASDAQ just continued to slide. Once we opened, down 150, down 200, down 2.25, down 230. And that's about where we stopped in this first hour of trade before I came on here. You look over at the Dow itself, the Dow actually started to recover a little bit, started to look a little bit better in that first half hour or so, and then started to slide a little bit faster to the downside. We were approaching getting a lot closer to being down about 200 points. I think last I looked, we were down about 185 points on the Dow. Crude, not a whole lot of movement. Right around 101 early, got up to about 103, pulled back to about 102. As we were talking about last week, we were about a 104. We'll see if crude grabs a little bit more, or is there going to be a little bit of pressure? Are we going to break back down again? That's going to be interesting to watch to see how crude really does react. Nat gas, on the other hand, up nearly 10%, up about 9%, up there towards that 650, 660 sort of an area. So that did stand out. And we are starting to see some of the other commodities get a little bit more of a focus. I mentioned some of those ag names as well. Bitcoin down about 3% early on, still holding above that 20,000 level, but a little bit of pressure. And then you look over at the volatility. Volatility's back over 26. It was not under 25 for more than a couple of heartbeats, and then bang, we go back up over that 26 level. The 2-year, the 10-year, holding on to that 3%, a little bit back, a little bit. You look over at the 2-year, it's like about 305. You look at the 10-year, right around 302. So that's really the storyline there in terms of the 2s and 10s, and something we've been focused on. And we are seeing a little bit of pressure, a little bit more pressure, certainly on the markets and specifically on the NASDAQ today. So Twitter, Tesla, that storyline, it's still playing out. Last I looked, I was looking at Twitter, it's down about 7%. You look over at Tesla, which was up pretty strong on Friday, giving back a little bit today. It was down a couple of percent, but not nearly as much as what we're seeing right now out of Twitter. Also, the news about China lockdowns certainly having an effect once again. And that zero policy that they've got over there, certainly that is something that's going to have an impact. We talk about specifically the casinos very oftentimes. I can tell you this, right out of the gate, casinos under pressure. Las Vegas Sands, yep. Wynn, yep. Caesar, yep. All getting a little bit of pressure. Talked about Twitter getting a little bit of pressure. How about Meta? How about some of those cruise lines once again? Something like a Carnival Cruise under pressure again. We did have all that put buying that we talked about just last week. Some of those Chinese names, of course they're under pressure. Why wouldn't they be under pressure? They've got the lockdowns in place once again. It's PDD, it's Baidu, it's NetEase, it's JD, all under pressure. Throw in a little Salesforce, you get the idea. There was not a whole lot of positives out there in terms of when I'm looking at what's in the green. Really isn't a whole lot in the green when you look at the three majors right now. But Altria, one of those names, that's kind of a go-to name. I look over at Merck. I mentioned healthcare. Merck having a decent day. 3M actually having a decent day. Not great days, but a decent day as well. Staples started off okay, moved over towards flat. They were in positive territory. Tech was under pressure by about 1%. Next thing you know, it's down nearly 2.5%. Consumer discretion down about 1%. Next thing you know, down about 2.5%. Energy down about 1%. Started to get a little bit of a recovery there. Financials, not doing a whole heck of a lot. Healthcare materials in the positive a little bit, but back and forth, but not a whole lot of movement there. Actually, moving back and forth, actually a little bit closer towards the red right now. Now, I've got two unusuals for you, then we're out of here. You got to check out, by the way, later on today, 12:30, we do this every Monday, and John and I are pretty excited about our latest deal, the Rebel Edge. Go to that YouTube page for Market Rebellion, get a chance to watch this son of a gun. It is a lot of fun, and it moves along very, very rapidly, and it's something that we're really excited about, something we're building out. 12:30 Central Time. Should be a lot of fun. It's very, very rapid fire, John and I together. It should be great. So, Spiders, the SPY puts. Spider SPY was trading at 384.80. Had a pretty decent sized buyer. We got 27,500 of the July 376 puts. So just a little bit out of the money. So they're a little bit further down. These are the puts again. They were going for about $1.70, 27,000 plus of those. They were also hedging those, always a smart thing to do, selling the 370 puts below that. So it's a $6 put spread. If we start to see this start to cascade to the downside, or is it just a hedge? Never really know. But those are going for about 80 cents. So call the whole thing close to $1 getting paid for the potential of making $6 if we start to really pull back substantially. That's something to keep an eye on. That was a very large trade right out of the gates today. Secondly, I'm going to give you BABA. And the reason I'm giving you BABA is there's a lot of different choices out there, but the Chinese names, pretty interesting. BABA trading right around 110. We got a buyer of 3,100 of the July 107 put. So just out of the money. Looking to the downside for Baidu. Is it going to pull down a little bit? Well, I just got done talking about some of the pressures on some of those Chinese stocks and some of the lockdowns that are being chatted about as well. Those are going for about, if you middle it, right around $2 for these July 107 puts. About 3,100 of those trading. Folks, hope you have a great day of trading. If you didn't understand what I'm talking about, I talked about puts, which is a little bit out of the ordinary. And I also talked about an ETF with the spider, a little bit out of the ordinary, but it's becoming more and more ordinary. I'll tell you what, you want to go out and find out what's going on in the derivatives markets, get educated. You've got to get educated so you fully understand the risks and potential rewards as you get involved in this whole space. We're excited about it, but you've got to make your own decisions on all of that. Of course, get educated. That's the best decision you can make, whether that's online, whether that's books, whether that's our team here at Market Rebellion, whatever. But get educated in derivatives market. Have a great day of trading.